we have the new moon at 9 degrees of Scorpio, happening on November 1st at 5:46 a.m. Pacific, which is 8:46 a.m. Eastern. Check your local time to see when this lunar event is occurring for you. Well, I just have to say this off the bat, we have an action-packed new moon in Scorpio occurring, and this is due to all the planetary transits we have going on. We've got some planetary formations, we've got a grand water trine, we've got a mystic rectangle, we've got both the modern and ancient ruler very active and aspecting one another during this new moon in Scorpio. So there's a lot going on. Energetically, this is going to feel like a heavy one, but there are some mitigating factors occurring that may tame it a bit. Otherwise, this can feel like a moon that's a bit rough around the edges. The cool thing is we can see some of these mitigating factors on the graph. The vibes on the graph are showing ambitious vibes. It's showing a lot of mental energy. There's smidges of social energy, some imagination and confusion, a little bit of psychic energy, and a lot of that's happening around the first. But once we get to Sunday, we start seeing a little more of that social activity picking up with the family and friends and other social vibes, along with good luck vibes and also some romantic energy. They're coming in small doses, however, because there are some saving graces over these next 48 hours. However, again, this energy might feel more heavier than typical because of what's going on with the rulers at this moment in time. Even though we've got ourselves a prickly new moon, it's a lunar event to think about the positive qualities you'd like to adopt in a specific sign and where you'd like to see yourself within the next 6 months regarding this sign's energy. So think about what you'd like to achieve in Scorpio energy. What type of intentions would you like to set regarding the vibes of this zodiac placement? What are the things that you'd like to transform by May 12th of 2025 regarding Scorpionic energy? And so I know this is not one of the most easiest energies. Sometimes it's one of those things where people might shy away from this energy because it helps us connect to the parts of ourselves that we aren't seeing. It helps us transform. It helps us empower ourselves, and it helps us purge out what's no longer useful for us. So in some ways, this energy can feel tough because it's really critical. It has a crucial nature to it, and it has a lot of psychological elements to it, especially because it helps us recognize what needs to be healed and what we might have been repressing. So that being said, is this a period where you're wanting to purge out what no longer serves you and give your life a much needed detox? And this can come in various forms. This may come in the form of shadow work to heal past trauma and to deal with patterns, deal with things that might have been repressed, dealing with coping mechanisms, compulsive behavior, and recognizing other unconscious patterns that are keeping you stuck. So it could truly be a time to understand what might be blocking you. And it could be things to do with our mindset. It could be spiritually. Maybe this is a period where you're working on a spiritual block you might have, whether that be your intuition, working on blocked chakras, maybe things that threw your aura off, or other metaphysical situations where you might have felt stagnated in some form. A lot of the times that could be our mindset that's causing some of the block, and maybe this is a time to transform those things that derail you in that sort of way. Other blocks that we can see within this energy that maybe you might be trying to improve, fix, transform, and just progress from, or purge out entirely, could be generational. With Scorpio being the ruler of the 8th house, sometimes it's things that we inherited from family. Of course, this doesn't have to be money in terms of inheritances, but for sure it can tie into that in terms of patterns with money. But this could be literal behaviors that were passed down that we're trying to break free from. Circling back to money on this situation, this could be a time where you're literally trying to work on debt. With Scorpio's association to finances, other people's money, loans, banks, and other forms of things that have to do with Scorpio, and also the 8th house. This could be a period where you're wanting to improve that. This could be a period where you're trying to transform maybe some sort of behavior that's been leading to debt, or trying to rebuild in terms of what's in your account and having some sort of savings. Maybe this is a time where we're trying to understand some harder truths and we're ready to hear them in order to repair our lives. So this could look like asking ourselves deeper questions in order to unlock truth. Maybe this could bring our attention to hidden patterns that we're doing and we're just not recognizing them in order to get real with ourselves. It can also be a time where it's essential for us to start speaking our truth as well. Maybe we've repressed that for a long time because we're afraid of the reaction we might get, or realizing that not speaking the truth is not getting us exactly what we want. So it could be a time to take a less passive-aggressive approach to honesty overall. Because this energy helps us focus on what's important, this might be a time to get laser focused on what we're passionate about. So this could be a time to do deep research that helps us achieve our goals later on. Some of those goals could look like financial goals, like I was saying earlier when it comes down to what Scorpio represents regarding money. Some of it can be about going on an empowerment journey. It could also be a time to work on the kind of relationships we want. Scorpio is about deepness and closeness in relationships. It's when we get ultra serious about our relationships. And so this might be a time where you're working out the kinks in order to have a meaningful relationship that's deeply committed, because you're realizing that it might be a time to do the work on yourself so that you're attracting the right types of people. Maybe it's a time to take a less superficial approach so that way you're attracting those who have substance, or learning why there may be an attraction to drama and how that's wreaking havoc on your love life and not allowing you to connect with the more stable types. Or maybe you've been too cautious and it hasn't allowed you to open up to others. And so you're trying to learn how to be a little bit more vulnerable and less trepidatious when it comes down to letting people in. So even though Scorpio energy is crucial, it does help us get ourselves in check so that we can purge out what's toxic in order to transform into something that's better and helps us make progress in our lives. Let's look at these transits and see what we can expect from this lunar event. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. So this new moon is happening during a very interesting time, and as a matter of fact, the time where we are having a lot of planetary activity with a lot of rare alignments and a rare retrograde. Mars will be going retrograde in the beginning of December, and right now is in pre-shadow. Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio, and it happens to be connecting with the modern ruler Pluto in a very crucial way. And so with energy like this, things can feel very tense. It can feel like anything that might have been brewing for a while is finally coming to the surface, and we're having to face these issues. It could have to do with our relationships and dealing with the not so pretty parts of them, especially if they happen to be unconstructive relationships to begin with. This could be a time where things feel more heightened in that area in terms of drama, in terms of jealousy, needing to even the score, other forms of pettiness, dealing with envious types, or feeling overly suspicious for something that we really shouldn't feel overly suspicious about. Also, tempers can flare up very easily under some of these transits and this Mars opposed Scorpio situation, so we need to be aware of that. There's more of a chance for confrontation, bickering, physicality when it comes down to fighting, and just all-out belligerentness. On top of that, both Mars and Pluto are complexly linked to Saturn, so anything that's a little bit outrageous or where we're being impulsive, not taking accountability, having poor reactions to things, pushing our limits, a lot of that can backfire under this energy. It can backfire under the Mars opposed Pluto, but Saturn being there adds more consequences to this situation. So that's also some stuff that we need to be aware of when it comes down to this. On top of that, Saturn happens to be in a T-square here with Venus and Jupiter, and so we also need to be aware of impulsive behavior when it comes down to that carelessness, over-the-top antics when it comes down to finances, relationships, whether that be romantic or platonic, and also levels of arrogance as well. I mean, we have some formations going on. There's a mystic rectangle going on and a grand water trine, and so some of those energies may mitigate some of that and soften the energy and help us in terms of utilizing our intellect and our talents in order to smooth situations over and to get in touch with our emotions. And the cool thing is this is involving the ancient ruler Mars. This also is involving Mercury, Jupiter, and Uranus. So there may be a little bit of stabilization during this time. And with the luminaries, even though they're in this hard alignment to Neptune, which is something that we need to be aware of in terms of not seeing things clearly, there's a lack of clarity going on during this lunar event. It's not that we won't have some bright spots and maybe some eureka moments, but it's something that we need to be aware of in terms of gullibility and other forms of clouded judgment. Also just not having a good sense of self and maybe experiencing moments where we second guess ourselves. A lot of that can come up during this lunar event. However, they are trine to Saturn, and that can also bring about some stabilization, especially when it comes down to our moods, especially when it comes down to our ego, and ways where we need to shake this off in order to take action on what's important. So yeah, this is definitely one of those lunar events that's heavy, Overall, it's just going to feel like a potent weekend to begin with all the transits connecting to this lunar event, and of course the transits on their own, not related to this lunar event. So do the best you can, try to be as grounded as you can be during this time, and try to take the most constructive approach you can if you have the luxury to. The signs that are going to feel this lunar event more than others is going to be the fixed modality. So that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, between 8 to 20 degrees of these zodiac placements. So if you have planets and chart points within these signs, you're going to feel this lunar event more than others. Anyway, I hope you all have the most constructive new moon in Scorpio ever later, and see you in the next episode.